At the height of the American Wild West, life was defined by a brutal and challenging daily grind, very different from the strict moral conventions of the conservative East. Social rules were much more flexible, allowing a freedom of behavior that would have been unthinkable in the more traditional cities of the East. Tom Tobin, an adventurous Irish American, made a name for himself in this setting in 1843. With unshakable courage, Tobin was known for his many skills: an unmatched tracker, a skilled hunter, a reliable guide, and a scout for the United States Army. His life exemplifies the essence of the multifaceted personality needed to survive and thrive in that era. Interestingly, during this time, drinking warm beer was the norm in the West, a practice quite different from European traditions of serving it cold. Until 1873, most of the beer consumed in the towns and villages of the West came from local or small regional breweries, reflecting the adaptation and use of available local resources. The portrait of Red Cloud, an Oglala leader wearing an elaborate headdress, brings to life the rich cultural and spiritual heritage of Native American peoples. In contrast, American Horse, another Native leader, is often seen in Western clothing with a gun by his side, reflecting an adaptation to European ways. In the context of the Wild West, hunting was crucial for survival. Along with water, food was the greatest necessity for pioneer communities. Because of this, settlers became skilled hunters, learning to make the most of what the land had to offer to sustain their families and communities. By the late 19th century, life in the American West was full of contrasts and unique challenges. Cowboys, for example, weren't just popular culture symbols. They played a crucial role in the economy, managing cattle herds and influencing distant markets. At the same time, medicine of the era was a mix of often questionable promises. So-called cure-all remedies were sold in large quantities, promising everything from the cure for deadly diseases to solutions for everyday problems, tapping into people's hopes during uncertain times. Water, always an essential resource, was a constant source of conflict in the West. With chronic scarcity, controlling access to this precious resource could mean the difference between prosperity and hardship. Entire communities depended on water not only for survival, but also as a point of unity, often forced to negotiate and cooperate for their shared survival. At the height of the 19th century, California experienced a vibrant era with the famous gold rush, drawing in a crowd of adventurers and dreamers from all over the United States. During this exciting time, poker became a popular pastime in bars and saloons, gathering places for those fueled by the hope of striking it rich. At the same time, the figure of killer Jim Miller stood out for his shocking duality. Despite his polished appearance and exemplary behavior, which made him seem like an honorable man with good values, Miller hid a dark side. Beneath his respectability, he was actually a cold-blooded and ruthless killer, a disturbing contrast for those who only saw him as a virtuous citizen. When gold was discovered in California, it sparked a rush that drove crowds to the West, all chasing wealth and a fresh start. These daring prospectors faced challenges and dangers, fueled by their intense desire to dig up hidden treasures and change their fortunes. In the rough setting of the Wild West, barbers were central and versatile figures. Besides cutting hair and trimming beards, they also acted as surgeons and pharmacists. This connection between barbering and medicine was a throwback to earlier times when medical treatments were more hands-on and less formalized. During their adventures in the Wild West, cowboys kept themselves energized with a practical and hearty diet, perfect for the tough pace of long journeys on the trails. These brave pioneers primarily ate beans, hard biscuits, jerky, dried fruits, and never passed up a good cup of coffee. The art of cattle branding has deep historical roots, starting in ancient Egypt around 2700 BC and spreading through Europe during the Middle Ages. This technique made its way to the southwestern United States via Spanish cowboys and later Mexican vaqueros, becoming a cultural symbol of cowboy life. With the gold rush in California, the demand for postal services skyrocketed, fueling westward expansion. Miners, entrepreneurs, and pioneers heading to California relied on these services to stay in touch with family and manage business from afar, as they sought fortune and new opportunities in this promising territory. Life on the frontier of the Wild West was filled with constant challenges and a tough daily routine. The people who chose to venture into these isolated regions had to deal with numerous hardships. From an early age, children were involved in household chores, with some starting to help as young as 4 or 5 years old. By the end of the 19th century, buffalo hunters played a big role in the economy of the American West. The town of Leavenworth, Kansas became a central hub for the buffalo hide trade. Hunters brought in huge quantities of hides to be sold and processed in the region, boosting the local economy. Clay Allison was a well-known name in the Wild West, celebrated for his exceptional skill with revolvers. He considered himself a precision shooter, standing out for his use of the six-shooter, more than just an ordinary gunslinger. His mastery with the weapon was so renowned that he was seen as a true artist of the trigger. On the other hand, the relationship between the Plains Indians and horses was radically transformed after the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. This event marked a turning point when Pueblo tribes united to drive Spanish colonizers out of New Mexico. After expelling the Spanish, the Pueblos seized thousands of horses, sparking a new era of horse culture among these native communities. During the time of westward expansion in America, many of the pioneers and cowboys who faced the vast frontiers were big coffee enthusiasts. Cowboys in particular were known for their dedicated consumption of the drink, turning to coffee not just for its pleasant taste and aroma, but for its stimulating qualities that helped keep them alert and energized during long, tough journeys into the unknown. Roy Bean, born around 1825 in Mason County, Kentucky, was one of those adventurers drawn to the promise of the Wild West. At just 15 years old, he decided to leave home and follow in the footsteps of his 2 older brothers, in search of a life full of adventure and challenges. His life was marked by a nomadic spirit, constantly roaming the West. The art of roping, essential in cattle ranching, began to develop in the American West in the 18th century, a legacy of the Spanish conquistadors. The farmers from Spain and their Mexican cowboys, known as vaqueros, were crucial in passing this knowledge to Texas cowboys, deeply influencing the cattle handling techniques in the region. Over time, the Wild West captured America's imagination, becoming a vibrant and captivating icon of the country's culture, especially in the Midwest. The rich tapestry of stories and images from the West, kept alive through books and movies, shaped a collective vision full of adventure, exploration, and resilience. Cattle Annie, whose real name was Anna Emmeline McDoulet, gained fame in the Wild West as a young American outlaw. Her path often crossed with that of Jenny Stevens, better known as Little Britches. Both were teenagers when they started getting involved in crime, participating in bank robberies and working with notorious gangs. The story of Colorado's development took a decisive turn with the discovery of gold near what is now Denver in 1858. Before this event, building railroads in the state wasn't seen as an immediate need. However, the gold rush completely changed the economic landscape, making railroads essential to support the region's rapid growth and development. The Texas Rangers have an impressive history, leaving a deep mark on Texas over nearly 2 centuries. This law enforcement force played a crucial role in keeping settlers safe and secure along the turbulent Texas frontier, facing significant challenges and conflicts. As we wrap up this video, we'd like to thank everyone who has followed along with us. If you're not part of our community yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future content.